Hi, everyone, and thank you so much for joining us at Life Community for this season of Life Groups. We're going to be spending 5 weeks breaking down Mark Clark's book, The Problem of Life. In here, he's talking about how we can accomplish human flourishing. He addresses questions of origin, of purpose, even of pain and suffering and death. So I hope that you're willing to dive in, ask good questions, and be honest with where you're at. Who are we and how do we know? We started this conversation last week talking about our origins. We are created beings. We were made on purpose for a purpose by God, and our value is given to us by Him because He formed us in His image and He breathed His life into us. But while we're more than just animals, we are not gods. And so from the beginning, we belong to the one who gave us life to begin with, and yet our fallen nature continually pulls us toward autonomy. We want to define ourselves and set our own boundaries and live by our own rules. And that actually was the very first temptation back in the Garden of Eden, where Adam and Eve were living in this perfect relationship with God and with each other when the serpent comes in and he starts asking questions, and he convinced Eve to decide she should be the one who gets to choose what the rules are. Basically, she put herself in God's place. And honestly, a lot of our sins come from that place as well. So, for the Christian, our identity must be firmly rooted in being a created being submitted to the authority of God. I think that we give ourselves far too much credit for the good that we could accomplish apart from God's work in our lives, because the reality is that without a moral being like God calling us to something higher, we revert to exactly what the enemy got us to believe at the very start. And that's that we should be in control of our lives, that we should get what we want and do whatever it takes to be happy, no matter what the cost is. So let's spend a few minutes talking about how we feel that pull to be the authority in our lives. I don't know about you, but I'm a control freak. I like to make the plans, to have the plans, to live by the plans. I have even found myself over and over again in my life praying, giving God suggestions for what He should do in my life. There's supposed to be this freedom and this supernatural peace in the fact that God holds all things. He knows all things, and He has power over all things if He wants to intervene. But this fall of mankind that brought sin into the world corrupted our trust of God. And from that day forward, we've had a submission problem. And that's actually where our problem with identity starts. Identity becomes exhausting when we're the ones responsible for creating it and holding it all together. It doesn't matter that we know that God has the best and perfect things in mind when we feel differently about what we want to see happening in our lives. And so we have this consistent tendency to, just like Eve, try to usurp authority back from God. And so Paul writes to the church at Philippi. He's encouraging them to take on the same mindset as Christ. And he writes, Christ, who, being in very nature God, did not consider equality with God something to be used to his own advantage. Rather, he made himself nothing by taking the very nature of a servant, being made in human likeness, and being found in appearance as a man. He humbled himself by becoming obedient to death, even death on a cross. So in light of this, the question becomes, if even Jesus didn't live as if he was equal to God, why are we trying to live like we have equal authority to God? And I would guess that for a lot of us, it's not because we think that we're strong enough on our own, but because really we're afraid. We fear what God might ask of us because we trust ourselves. I know for me, I can hear my own thoughts. I can trace my own logic. And so when it comes time to make a decision, I trust the conclusion that I have come to. But that means that in my work and in my life, I'm trying to manufacture my own identity instead of trusting God to lead me into the one that He has set for me. And we see this all around us. The world tries solving the identity problem with every available answer, but the problem is when we're chasing identity, we are enslaved to that chase for identity because our identity is found in the one who made us. And that's a given. If we were the product of random chance, then it would make sense that I am my own authority and I can spend my life doing what I see best or what's going to benefit me the most. But I'm not. I was designed, and our designer made us for a role that stays in submission to him. In the book, Mark Clark uses this image of somebody who's house sitting. Imagine you invite someone to stay in your home while your family goes on vacation, and you come home a week later and she's painting the cabinets and she won't let you in. And she's saying, "This is my house." Of course it's not her house, and you would know how absurd that felt because it's your house that she was taking care of under your instruction while you were gone. And the truth is, our lives are that way. They are given to us by our designer to live under his instruction. American culture has so individualized our lives that it continually promotes our right to make our own decisions and pursue our own happiness. But the God who made us has a solid idea of what's going to be best and healthiest for us. And so these parameters that he gives us in the Bible aren't meant to be restrictive and limiting or unfair, but they are meant to be his helping us take care of ourselves the way he would choose to take care of us. Our designer knows best, and that is a given. And over in this book, Mark Clark talks about the givenness of things. And what he means is that even if I don't feel like obeying the law of gravity today, I'm capable of jumping out of an airplane without a parachute, but I know that will result in me falling to my death because of the givenness of the law of gravity. My feelings have nothing to do with it. And so he goes on saying, sooner or later, you will realize that order can't be rearranged around your desires. And the God who decided on the order of things has made us to live under his authority. So, to rightly understand ourselves, then, we need to rightly understand God. So, let's spend a minute talking about who God is. So then, what is our identity? As beings made by God in His image, who are we? So I just want to close by saying we are more than. We are more than the times we let people down, more than the times we feel like we're failing, more than the days where we lose our temper again. But we're also more than our accomplishments. We're more than the things that we buy, more than the job that we have or the business that we're running. We are more than bodies, more than just physical decisions, more than random chance. We're more than our pain. We're more than the tragedies that we experience and more than the things that happen to us. We're more than all the metrics our culture tells us to measure ourselves by, and we're more than the value assigned to us by other people. But the biggest one, we are more than just us. We are living souls designed on purpose for a purpose with a value given to us by our Creator. So I'll leave you with another thought from Mark Clark. He writes, "Most of us are not winners. Maybe life isn't about being a winner, but about giving a good account of ourselves, even in the losses, in the difficulties of life." We are more than our circumstances, and we're living for more than right now. And when your identity doesn't have to be found in those things, you can find the freedom to flourish. So, in your groups, let's talk about this. Answer the question, what difference does it make to live as somebody who receives identity rather than as someone who has to create it? Thanks for joining us again this week. Please spend some time in prayer with your groups before you go. Encourage each other, and let's do the work of actually living our lives together. We'll see you next week.